So should I start?
Yep.
Yes, Rashmi.
Okay. So good evening. I'm really excited to be here with you. And so first, I thought that we'll just spend a minute or two landing in the here and now. I understand that many of you have come back from a long day at work. So we'll just take a minute to, if you like, close your eyes and just become aware of your breathing. And maybe it's better to close your eyes, and then the focus is only on the breath. So become aware of the in-breath and the out-breath. Focus on a point underneath the nostril or at the nostril itself, and you will be able to notice the texture of the air going in, and the texture of the air going out is different. The temperature is different. And for the next few seconds, just notice the in-breath and the out-breath without trying to lengthen it or shorten it. And if any thoughts come to your mind, then just become aware of the thought and bring the attention back to the breath. And then become aware of your body and occupy the space which is in the body. So become aware of the weight of the body on your tailbone. Become aware of the weight of your body on the chair. And again, with the intent of fully being in the here and now and fully landing in the body, we'll do a quick body scan, starting from the top of the head to the forehead, to the eyebrows and eyes, and the cheeks and the ears, the nostrils, the upper lip, the lower lip, the point at which the lips meet, the inside the mouth, the chin, and then moving to the chest, the abdomen, the internal organs, whatever they may mean to you. And then moving the attention to the top of the head, to the back of the head, to the back of the neck, to the shoulders, a loving mental massage which take a good amount of the load during the day. And then to the upper back, the middle back, the lower back, moving back to the shoulders, the upper arms, elbows, lower arms, wrists, the palms, the hands, then to the hips and buttocks, and to the thighs and the knees and the calf muscles, and then to the feet. And now that we are fully here inside the body, come back and open your eyes. And what I thought is that we will do a quick round of introductions, and this round of introductions will involve just saying your name and making a sound, and the sound preferably with no words. So let me start. So this is Rashmi. Ahoo, oohoo, aha. So anybody else? And you know, just 2 seconds each, and we complete a quick round.
This is Arvind.
This is
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, let me call out the name so that there is no duplication. Is that okay? So, and there are some of you who have your mic on mute, so you will need to unmute yourself. So Anuradha. Okay. Nilufer. Sarmishta.
Oh.
Aditi. Aditi. Okay. CN. Narayanan. Don't hear you, Narayanan.
Hi.
This is Narayanan.
So just make a sound.
Sorry?
Make part of your introduction. So the sound, yeah.
Sound. Oh. This is.
So I'm adding a new possibility of make it expressive, which expresses the mood. Ruchi? Prajakta? Vivek? Vandana? You need to unmute yourself. Did we cover? Can't hear.
I think she's not there.
Have you covered everyone?
Rajat?
Yes, Rajat. Okay, so as we are starting, I'd also like us to get in touch with what did this instruction do to you, and how did you feel when you expressed yourself? So, for example, it could be, did you find it strange? Did you find yourself thinking, oh, what sound to make? Did you find it absurd? Just a couple of people.
What sound to make? That's what I was going through.
Out of my comfort zone.
And how did that feel?
So I was waiting for everybody to kind of finish and then decide what I wanted to do. But my reaction came out as like, okay, this is quite interesting. So that's the kind of sound also that I ended up naturally, and that came naturally to me then.
So there was a combination of curiosity and anxiety.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Prajakta here. I think when you said make a noise sound, I was quite confused what kind of sound. But by the time my turn came, you said that okay, express it, and it became easy for me to express.
So one is, we are also getting in touch with the difference between thinking, and the other is also, to an extent, we are also getting in touch with how constricted we feel and how expansive we feel. So psychodrama is actually one way of moving into expansion of self, where spontaneity is more and more accessible and available to us. So when we are fully spontaneous, which is ultimately the natural drive and desire for all human beings, then the concern becomes less and less of how will I sound, what will I say. You just make a sound, or you just say what you have to say. So that was a quick introduction to what is psychodrama. And so let me, so anything to speak at this point, anything to share?
So is there a reason why we choose a particular kind of response? Is there some theory around that as well?
So you see, the thing is that that's an interesting question. The possibilities are endless. And yet, for some of us, the instinct was to choose something familiar. So the idea of spontaneity is also to allow myself to go into the unfamiliar, something which I've never done before, perhaps. So I'm going to put on my screen share.
So that's very interesting concept. So spontaneity, what will people go with something that they're already comfortable with, or something new completely?
So spontaneity is to allow yourself to experience what is emerging right now, rather than to go on to a traveled roadmap.
Wouldn't I have it what's coming to me right now will always be what has traveled, right?
So in this group, for example, a lot of people said, haha, there were some of these common elements. So the question is that how much did I allow myself to make a sound which I've never made before?
Okay.
So, stop.
Hey, Vivek here. I have a view. May I share?
Yeah.
So I was also thinking, I think we as a group also, it's just the beginning of session, and Rashmi, we are meeting you first time.
Yeah.
I have a built-in spontaneity, and all this esteemed crowd of all PCC, MCC, pranic healers. I'm not sure if I want to bring my spontaneity in the first go. I think that could be another perspective why one would make that sound, and it's just another perspective. So Rajat, response to is, am I reading too much of just making sound in the first 3 minutes of a webinar with 20 elite crowd?
Yeah. So when you speak
just
of elite crowd, by the way, is the screen available to you now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So when you speak of elite crowd, then automatically there are certain judgments which are coming up, and there are certain boundaries which are coming up, and certain norms which are coming up, and certain roles which are coming up. And the question that I will leave us with is that to what extent is it restrictive? Yeah, so I'll just leave it with that.
Rashmi, this is Narayanan. I just wanted to check if this will also be from a perspective of how do I work with my client in terms of spontaneity? Is it coming from a perspective of what I have gone through with other clients, or is it coming for the client? Just
Yes,
based on the client.
It's very relevant. And so spontaneity really means to be in the here and now, which is to be able to receive what is emerging. So coaching is all about that. So when we listen fully, we are allowing what has to emerge, and we are able to get that and move with it. And if I am using models which I've used before, then to an extent I'm not available to what is emerging in the here and now.
Right. Thanks.
So the structure which I've planned is a quick introduction. So we've already gone past. So exploring role balance, so which involves 6 minutes of individual work, and then 3 minutes of an explanation, what is role development. And then there is some sharing work in breakout rooms where we will work in groups of 3. So there will be 3 minutes each. And then I'd like to do a demonstration for you of what is known as the empty chair technique. And then the plan is that we again go into breakout rooms in groups of 3, and one person takes the role of a coach, the second person the coachee or the client, and the third person the observer. So moving on. So a quick introduction to psychodrama is that it uses action and role play as a means to study behavior in its concrete form. And the usual instruction is show me, don't tell me. And because thinking, feeling, behavior are role specific, and role expansion is used to reach deeper layers of self. So a quick example is, this picture is taken from some work that I did recently with a client where their business is child care of street children. So the issue that was brought in the group was that the children are difficult to manage. They are indisciplined, and it's very hard to manage them. So we don't go into more explanation than that. So the group is told, the group of 5 or 6, that show us. So they get, just 3 minutes to get ready. And so in this picture, you will see that there are 2 of these members, the employees, who became children. They're sleeping in a dorm, and then there were these 3 supervisors who were trying to wake them up in the morning. So there are 3 elements of psychodrama that come up over here. One is role reversal. So the moment you become the children, there is a sort of a role reversal, and there is an experience of what is happening to the child. And then there is another aspect in psychodrama which is called doubling, where you ask the person to stand behind yourself and say what you're thinking, what you don't normally say out aloud. So that aspect is called doubling. And the third critical component of psychodrama is something called mirroring, where you show a short play and you have a protagonist. So this gentleman here, Javed, was the protagonist who was the supervisor who was getting all this done. He was in charge of getting the children ready. So after showing this for 3-4 minutes, then you bring in another person who plays your role, and you stand out and observe the whole thing being replayed for you like in a video replay. So this brings a role distance. So in some ways, as our Vedanta calls it, you are able to be a witness to what is your typical behavior. So this is a short introduction to psychodrama.
Rashmi, can you make it to full screen?
Yeah.
Presentation mode? Yeah, thank you.
So then, and if you compare it with emotional intelligence, so the way we describe emotional intelligence is connecting the dots between thinking, feeling, and behavior. So, a good way for self-awareness is to ask myself the question constantly that what are my feelings? And how feelings is nothing but an energy in motion. And so to ask myself, how am I using this energy? And rather than letting the energy consume me, which is where fight, flight, or freeze happens. So when we get into a role, we have access to our thinking, feeling, and behavior, and we're getting to know ourselves and thus explore ourselves more deeply. And so all of this is related to the question that, who am I? Why do I react the way that I do? And what is it doing to my connectedness with others? So again, over here, the role that we explored was the role of the supervisor, and his thinking, feeling, and behavior will be, that we are exploring, will be specific to this behavior, to this role at this time. And through this exploration, we are reaching into the different layers of self and therefore exploring ourselves. So much for a quick explanation and overview, and it was developed by Jacob Moreno, a 20th century psychiatrist. And in every play that is done, the protagonist is at the center of his drama, and he's the storyteller and the creator. So, and that's the only theory that we're going to do right now. I wanted to, again, get us into an experience. And so roles is really a profound vehicle for self-exploration and growth. So here is an exercise for us to do. So I hope that you have a piece of paper and pen with you. That's what we'll need. So put a circle somewhere on the paper with your name inside the circle. So for example, like this, Rashmi. The next step is put spokes out like this with your pen on this circle. And then the next step is that write the major roles you play in your life, and take 2 to 3 minutes to do this. So for example, what I wrote for myself was all of these things. Daughter, sister, mother, disciplined health watcher, coach, housekeeper, friend, movie buff, corporate trainer, writer, blogger. And another one which I wanted to add afterwards was traveler. So are you almost done?
Yep. There is no end.
Yeah, that's right. You can do a whole lot of them. So let's go to the next step, which is that check out this role balance for yourself. Or yeah, let's go into a breakout room. So Arvind, can you help me with this?
I'll help you with that. How many people do we have? So we have around, apart from you, 16 of us. So do you want to be part of one of the rooms also?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to break it into 5 into 3.
Yeah.
And then I will invite you for one room and I'll go into one room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rajat, Rashmi would also want to move between the rooms, right? In between?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rashmi, you need to tell me which rooms.
Correct. So
I will wait in the
message.
Rashmi, what you do is you go into a room, come back, and I'll wait in the main room. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll put you into other rooms then, one by one. Okay. Manually. This one is here.
So the instructions are this. Before we move into the smaller groups, that share in your group answers to these questions which are put up in the screen. That which role would you like to be bigger? So in the sense that of the roles that you've listed, so do a quick sharing of the roles that you've listed, and then share that which of these is an undeveloped role according to you, where you're experiencing role hunger, which role do you feel most alive in, and which role feels most burdened. And if you could magically add a role, what role would you add? If you could magically drop a role, which role would it be?
Okay. Should I open the room?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is 2 minutes per head.
Yeah. So we'll declare it closer to time.
And
so when you are
is it possible to so I've started the timer, and when 2 minutes are up, what I would like to do is to give a signal so that we give them 3 signals.
Okay. So I'll send the broadcast to all of them. You let me know when.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you into one room now.
Yeah.
So come out when your 2 minutes are over.
Okay. How do I come out?
Just say go to the main room. When you reach in that room, you will be allowed. You will have that option.
Okay, fine.
क्या बात है अमित, एकदम स्टाइल ब्लैक में व्हाइट हो रखे हो।
अरे नहीं सर, वो बैकग्राउंड जरा सा ऐसी जगह बैठो कि लाइट ना जलाओ तो ज्यादा अच्छा है।
एकदम साइकोड्रामा स्टाइल में आप यहाँ पे।
Amit Tripathi,
Actually, I got dropped out from the main from my breakout room.
Okay.
Rajat, okay.
Yeah, Aru.
Amit Tripathi is a known colleague from Patni Computers.
Okay. Okay.
Sir, how are you?
So,
Narayan sir, good to see you out here.
same here. वही तेरा face देखा तो immediately strike हुआ. I know you.
Okay. So let's not get into too many personal details. This gets recorded and puts on YouTube. Huh?
Oh,
Tomorrow morning I'll call you.
okay. Sorry for that.
No, I'm just telling you. This goes out on YouTube.
No, good you called me actually. Otherwise, my entire schedule would have gone across.
Okay.
Vanna, we can hear you. Can you go on mute, please? Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry I got dropped out pretty early from the room.
Hi.
So there was this experience, and I was there in one of the rooms, and there were reflections on, what. So it's a perspective on what is happening with me in my life right now, and the next step is here that we'll be doing in this is choose one of the roles to explore. Can you see the screen?
No.
No.
Oh, share screen. Yeah. So choose one of the roles where you found that you experience either conflict or fatigue or hunger or ambivalence. What I would suggest is that you do this for yourself, and only if you feel comfortable, share this. So let me share with you what I wrote. So the role that I chose to explore was my role as a sister, and where I experienced ambivalence, and I also experienced a certain conflict. And then you put spokes around it again, and then you write on these different aspects of the role that you have to deal with. So for me, the different aspects of the role are, so one is as an aunt to my nephew. The second one is sharing responsibility to take care of father. And here also a certain conflict comes because I feel that we sometimes brothers, we pull in different directions. So meeting for birthday party, to organize that, keeping in touch over the phone, to take the initiative to call family get-togethers, meeting with warmth and affection. And so again, this aspect of the role troubles me because what I have been getting a little upset about is that everyone at some point starts looking at their phones and this warmth and affection is lost. And then I have the younger brother who had mental difficulties. So one of my roles is to keep in touch with his mental health caregivers. And then he started a business where he makes chocolate, so encouraging and helping him with his chocolate business. And so this is the next part of your task. So again, take 2 minutes to do this. And so the work is that of different roles that you listed, choose one which you experience conflict or ambivalence with, and then do this work with the different aspects of that one role. So take 2 minutes to do that. Okay. So, so again, the idea is to give you a demonstration of a possibility of using this even in a coaching situation, because what we are doing is something called a warm-up, where we are helping the client get in touch with some of the aspects of his or her life. And in psychodrama, there are three parts. There is the warm-up, there is the action, and then there is the sharing. So what we are doing right now is something called a warm-up. And the next step, which we will not get into right now, was again to take a role, and again the role with which you have either a conflict or an ambivalence, or it could be a role hunger for that matter. Write adjectives for this role, that if it were to have a taste, what would it taste like? What would it smell like? What would be the color be? What movement, what texture, what sound? So for example, in my role as a sister, the movement I experience is again that of a restriction, because I know that when I meet my two brothers, then I'm not my usual enthusiastic and joyful self. Some old patterns start playing up, old behaviors start coming. So the reason for doing this exercise would be to get out of the thinking mode and to get into a feeling mode. And when we use these senses, then it helps us get in touch with the actual feelings in that scene which comes up when we actually get into that situation. And so the next thing which I would want to share with you is this role work can help you gain perspectives and shift awareness. And happy and healthy people play more than one or two roles, move in and out of the roles with ease. And when you get stuck in a role, it leads to fatigue and lack of creativity. And overplaying a role can lead to burnout. And adding new roles can provide outlets for nurturing creativity and growth. So in some ways, growth is about role expansion.
So I had a question here.
Yeah.
Sorry, on the previous slide, in fact, the adjectives that we wrote for taste, smell.
Yeah.
Is this for each role that you write down all of these senses?
So this is an invitation to do this with the role with which you have conflict or
okay. So that one role.
Yeah.
One role.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is each role can actually have all of this.
Sure, but the idea is not to get into an academic exercise of doing this for every role. So right now the focus is on staying with one role for deeper exploration.
I got that. But is there a possibility that the role that I'm choosing I'm not able to think of a color, but I do have a taste.
Yeah.
And I have a sound, but the rest I don't have.
Yeah. But again, Arvind, the idea is not to think. The idea is to get into the body, neck downwards.
Okay.
So, and that is the essence of coaching, so that when you're relating with your client, also you're helping him to connect with feelings rather than staying at the thought level. Because that is where transformation will happen. That is where neural connections of the mind and the feelings and old patterns will change.
But won't I still use my brain to get a color at least, even if I feel it? I feel when I think of that role.
Yeah.
Isn't that still coming from a thought or a?
Yeah, of course, it will always be both.
But you're getting present to that particular feeling at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
So Rashmi, this could take some time for the client, right?
Yeah.
You know, some clients might write immediately taste.
Yeah.
But smell and all, they might take some time to happen. Just saying, for some it might take more time. Some it will come immediately saying, "Hey, this is the color."
That's true. I can perfectly imagine one or two of my clients who will take a lot of time for this, because they are not used to use these modalities at all, because they are so used to being in the head.
Yep.
Yeah. So you would take your call whether you want to, give him this time, because one of the biggest issues I think for most of us is to be out of touch with our feelings. We are too much in our heads. And that's why also I started the exercise with the way that we started.
Sure. Thank you.
So now, what I would like to do is to do a small sample for you, which is something called the empty chair dialogue. And here we will use a psychodrama technique. And for this, I would ask if, invite for a volunteer who is willing to be the client for this short demo.
Arvind.
So the rule is you can't volunteer someone else. You can only volunteer.
I can do it. My name is Vivek.
Vivek, you might want to be on video then, I'm assuming.
You will see that glow. Oh, it's just check with Rashmi. Rashmi, is the video mandatory?
Yes, it's better for this particular exercise. Yes. And what I will also do is to give you a little demonstration of what it means. And in this, let me do this myself first. Okay. Here, I'm going to have a conversation, and the person whom I choose to have a conversation is, in my example, my brother. And this is my middle brother. And so in this exercise, what I'm going to do is that there is an empty chair in front of me, and I see my brother sitting there. And then I switch roles with him. So I become my brother, okay? And then I speak from the role, from my brother's voice. So I role reverse with my brother. So I am Sudhanshu, and I am speaking about my sister. So is that okay? Is that clear? So what I'm demonstrating, yeah.
Go ahead.
So what I'm demonstrating is that a role reversal. Okay, so I take on the role of my brother, and I say that good evening, guys. It's good to be here. This is Sudhanshu, and I'm not sure why my sister has brought me into this webinar. I know she does big stuff like training and coaching, and it sometimes makes her also act as though she is a bit of a know-all, and this is the part of her which actually I don't feel comfortable with. So there is a part of this role of hers, of Rashmi's, which I have benefited from, because she asked my son to come. And in fact, my son goes over to her place and takes some coaching from her, which in fact helped him get admission into his college, and we appreciate that. But then there are other parts of her which really get onto my nerves. The part of her which is that she acts a little bossy sometimes, and she also sometimes in conversation implies that I'm not taking care of dad enough, and she so that's why we have a conflict sometimes. So also, when there are get-togethers, quite often I'm late, and I don't inform people that I'm going to be late, and then she gets so upset that she, allows that feeling to come into the get-together, and I don't see any need for her to get so upset. Okay, so I'm closing this. So here was a demonstration of one aspect of psychodrama, which is called role reversal. So the client gets into the role of someone else and speaks as though from there. So you get insights into, and that person also gets an insight into how is the person feeling in their life with whom, let's say they, so the one thing which I forgot to give you, the brief of this was that role reverse with someone with whom you have an unfinished business. So that is a brief. And so then when you role reverse, then the next step would be that I get back into my role as Rashmi, and then I reply to Sudhanshu that, Sudhanshu, it was good to hear from you. And this is a conversation which we've never had in real life. And I'm glad that you spoke your thoughts, like that. So what do you think are the benefits of this?
Rashmi, will it be in this? Just wanted to seek a clarification also. Is it one of these NLP techniques which is being played out? Because this is part of the NLP workshops also on the empty chair thing.
So I'm not familiar with NLP, and doubtless there will be many overlaps, between all of these modalities. Yeah.
Okay. And the second thing is when somebody is expressing themselves as a third party or a third person, how much of that will be, like, suppose that empty chair thing, what you did right now with your brother there, how much of is it coming from you and how much of is it coming from the brother? Because for
that's
me,
a very interesting question.
Because for me, it sounded as if you are stating out what he has stated out to you earlier.
Well, we've never had this conversation, so it cannot be something that he has stated to me, but it is my perception of what he's thinking. So you see, in any situation, you cannot ever have a complete objectivity. There will be always subjectivity, and this is my subjective truth but this is my truth.
Okay.
And that is what we are exploring.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
And the fact is that there is a conflict in my mind. The fact is that this conflict is because of certain projections or introjections which I have made. And again, that is what we are exploring here.
And that is where I'm just checking if the conflict is there. Okay, will I be completely truthful when I speak as the other person?
So that is another interesting question. So again, what is helpful here is to help the client get into the feeling space rather than the thinking space. So the feeling space would, because if he's in the head, then, it is more of an intellectual or a mental exercise, and that is not helpful. So one way of getting into the feeling space is to actually create a scene and ask your client that, so where are you right now? So maybe he will say that I'm at the dining table and I'm sitting in Rashmi's house. And so what are you wearing right now? What have you just eaten? So we are helping we are helping the client actually get into the role. So that it gets outside the head.
Okay. Sure. Thanks, Rashmi.
Yeah.
Hi, Rashmi. Amit here. Just one query.
Sure.
Yeah. See, you said that when we put the other person in the chair, and then basically it is our entire perception of what the person is going to talk about.
Yeah.
What if we actually don't have the right perception anyway?
So you see, in this is not about right or wrong. It is about my perception, which I am wanting to explore, because whatever is the difficulty or conflict which I'm having, it is something which is my perception.
Okay.
And it is, once I put it out there, then I'm hearing myself,
Okay.
and then the coach will help me to say, so what do you want to do about it? And in some ways, then I myself will also have answers of saying that, yeah, but the thing is, so in some ways, I'm getting a sense of what I'm saying it out aloud for the first time. And so in some ways, psychodrama is the aspect of making the invisible visible.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when it becomes concrete and when it is out there, then I am also in a position to take certain calls, certain remedial and healing actions. So maybe then I become much more aware of this dynamic with my brother. And so the next time when I meet him, then I will be conscious and watchful that I don't come across like this to him, because the whole thing has played out in this way. So in that sense, it will help me in my relationship with him.
Okay.
So I've acknowledged it aloud for the first time. Otherwise it's all there somewhere at the back of my mind, churning and moving around.
So it's somewhere at the back of my mind. I've managed to bring it out in the front end, absorb it, get some insights, and then now we can take further action on it.
Yes.
Got that. Thank you.
So it's also about, see, at the end of the day, it's my perception of this whole piece, right? In the interactions that I have with, in case of Rashmi, her brother, right? But as a coaching session, this will evolve. Everything that I'm saying in this, you will explore it further and saying, what makes you believe this, or what, how did it come about in your perception this happened? And this is the way this thinking is going on. And there's an exploration, and some things you might discard at the end of it, saying, yeah, that might be my thinking. I've never seen him saying these pieces, but I think that's my perception.
Possibly. So you can use this data and then to move into the exploration and the coaching. And the benefit of this is that, when you're in the here and now, and what comes out when you are in that seat of this empty chair, and then what comes out is more likely your subjective truth comes out, and in a way it's a relief, and in a way it is more potent than what comes out just through an intellectual conversation.
It's acceptance at some level.
Yes.
So Rashmi, if I could just add to your earlier question when you had asked on this one. So I feel, this kind of exercise will really be very important or very powerful, if I could use that word, in terms of allowing your own perception to be viewed by yourself from the other's perspective.
Yeah. So this is reversal. This is a good definition of reversal.
Yeah. So because normally you only think what you're thinking, and you don't even give yourself time to understand what the other may be thinking in this situation. So I guess this allows for that perspective to come in, and then you may want to change your behavior or thinking to maybe, get closer to what the other person is expecting.
Yeah, quite right. So you don't allow yourself to voice what you're thinking, or you don't allow yourself to voice what you think the other person is thinking. And it's all that is going on inside you.
Rashmi, Arvidya, so is psychodrama more to do with a person dealing with something with another person, or can it be with a situation also?
It can be a person, it can be a situation, it can be an aspect of yourself. So for example, I could also have this conversation with an aspect of myself. So let's say there is an aspect of myself which is the hard driving.
I'm lazy. Let's say lazy.
Yeah. Good, very good example. So I speak to that part of me which is that lazy, the person, the procrastinator person. So so one is that I speak from there, and I say that I'm Rashmi, and I have a big list of things to do, and it makes me feel so tired to even think of it.
Okay, got that.
Yeah.
So but the concept is,
and the coach would then ask questions to help me explore this, that what does this look like, what does this feel like, how old are you in Rashmi's life, what do you do to Rashmi, and so on.
Okay. Sure. So there is a person concept that has to get created every time, with whatever it could be, but so that there is another person who could be speaking. Okay, got that. Thanks, Rashmi.
Rashmi, I've got a question, and this is CN here.
Yeah.
The question I have is that with a client, is it in your experience, do you find that it becomes easier for a client to use this technique very powerfully when he is, as his experience goes from one session to another? Does he become more comfortable?
Yeah. Yeah. So in the beginning, it feels strange, and there will be resistance possibly.
And how do you handle that
handle the resistance? Yeah, so one way of handling the resistance is very interesting. So when a person says that this is not for me, so you can ask a question that what is this resistance all about? Which part of you is and you are bringing this resistance?
So you get into a coaching conversation about the resistance.
Yeah, that's a possible route to take.
The second question I had into the question you asked earlier about whether people had experience in group coaching and all. How do you use this in group coaching and group facilitation?
So, see, in groups, it is very useful to bring this technique, for example, to give them a task of, let's say, give them a 10-minute time and say, ask them to prepare a scene which is one day in the life of where they are dealing with a difficult conflict. So, so one person becomes the person who's handling the conflict, the other person in the group becomes the person, let's say, from the other department. So then, and without giving them too much time to prepare, then they come and they act out that, they play out that scene. So there's a conflict between the person from the field who's talking to the accounts person, and the accounts person is being sticky. And so a lot of dynamics then are immediately visible about how the organization functions, what are the culture of the organization, and you can use it for both purposes, to look at the organization culture, as well as that if, let's say, the protagonist become very overbearing in this role, then we can look at role training, that how would you handle such a difficult situation? What are the other ways? And then you can also do something called act storming, where you then invite someone from the audience to say that are there ideas of how else could you handle this situation? So then different people can come and show what is the style that they would use to handle that situation.
Thank you.
So, Rashmi, we are 4 minutes beyond 8.
Yeah.
How much time do we more need?
So there are only two things which we can do now. One is that, in psychodrama, the sequence is that you do a warm-up, then you do the action, and you do a sharing. So if it is okay with you, I'd like to spend 3 minutes on, let me put this off, 3 minutes on sharing, and just to give you a sense of how sharing takes place. So, just now in this demonstration,
so your screen is still shared. If you want to stop sharing.
Yeah, I would like to do that, and I'm just wondering how to do it.
At the top, just take it to the top. There's a stop share there of Zoom platform at the top.
It's interesting, you're sharing and then stop sharing.
So I'm going to just do my share so that your share stops, and then I'll stop my share.
Yeah.
Okay. You're here.
So is this stop sharing?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So, so after the protagonist, so in this case, I was a protagonist because I, did the role of speaking with my brother and doing the role reversal. So the last stage is usually sharing, where people from the group, they share that in this role play. So of course, in a one-to-one coaching, you would not have that, but when there is a group of people, what aspect could you relate with of what came up about me and my situation? So that I would invite you to do. So then it becomes a demonstration of what sharing is like.
Go ahead, Rashmi.
So did you get my question?
So what is the intent? Should people reply? What?
Yeah. I would like you to reply. So which means that you unmute yourself and reply that from your perspective as Amit or Ruchi or Prajakta or what in this, was there something that you could relate with, something which touched you, something which you saw, oh yeah, I that is something which I'm also familiar with.
I think I can share. So this is about another person that I know in my life, who I think both of us are very well-meaning people. Intentions are very right, but many a times there are conflicts because I think the intentions are read in the wrong way. So I think many a times we don't stop and explain or maybe even decipher more for each other, and then are these prejudices and these opinions which form, which are then difficult to break. So I think what you were sharing between siblings, I think I do have a particular person that I'm thinking about now, who we put perfectly well-meaning individuals, but when we get to interact with each other, there seems to be sparks which fly the wrong way. So so I completely get that I think there is time for us to maybe even sit down and understand each other better, because there is no real reason for us to behave in the way that we do, though if you look at it individually, we are perfectly well-intentional about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, hi, hi Rashmi, this is Lakshmi Narasimhan. So I literally could imagine myself in the seat of in your brother's seat, right? So I have a sister. We kind of go through a similar kind of sentiment, right? We share these sentiments. So I could see through the same situation that you were talking about, right? And when I probably put myself in her shoes, that's how it would exactly look like.
Thank you. So this was a demonstration of the sharing that happens after the play. So what happens is that the protagonist also feels by protagonist now I mean me, also feels protected that she is not alone with these kind of problems. So in some sense, there is a camaraderie and a support that is built. So we are at the end of the session, and I have one suggestion of how we will close it. And the suggestion is that we will again make a noise as we close. So, and this time the invitation is to expand yourself and make a noise which is different from what you have ever made before, and make it also for a slightly longest time. So if last time it was for 1 second, so this time make it 3 seconds or 4 seconds.
Yippee!
Okay.
Yay!
Hooray! Woohoo!
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha.
And here is one from me.
That was good. So, thank you, Rashmi, for this amazing session. A lot of learning, really, lots of learnings, and we would at some point figure out a way of putting this into practice in our program as well, and see what can we do around this in coach training as well, and beyond coaching. So each of these people will put their pieces into coaching, but we are saying even in coach training we'll have to see how we include this piece. right? It could be very powerful. Thank you so much for doing this.
Rashmi, thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Rashmi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi.
Thank you very much
A
indeed.
delight and a pleasure.
Thank you.
I think time is too short, Rajat. We need to increase the time.
Yeah.
I think 1 hour passes, right? I don't think there's justice to the topic. I think we need 2 hours.
And that's the whole idea, Anuradha.
Bundle it.
Earning for more.
I think 2 hours. 2 hours.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you so much. Guys, take care.
Thank you guys for joining in. You have a good day.
Bye.